Hey, what's up, everybody? This is going to be a recorded thing, and I'm expecting it's going to be the first time that I'm doing this type of thing. I'm going to have my iPad over here. I'm going to have a couple other things going on. I don't expect anybody to be watching this right now, to be quite honest, but it's going to be for later on, people to look at. I'm going to try to build this, not this channel up. This channel is already built up pretty good with political stuff. I want to build up my other channel, my tattoo channel. But in the meantime, until I get 50 subscribers on that one, because I literally just started it. God, I think I got my wife's gloves. What the hell is going on? And I don't know if anybody has seen the Fetterman speech. If you want, look on my page. It's going to be down there somewhere. I don't know where the hell it's at. I don't know how they do that shit. But in the meantime, while we're doing that, listening to the Fetterman speech and also to the Biden speech, we're going to do both of them. I'm going to be doing a cherub. My son wants a tattoo, and I'm starting to... I have to knock it out a couple times before I actually give it to him. So this is going to be the cherub that he's going to be getting, which is pretty cool. And with all my kids, what I do is whatever tattoo they get, I'm going to give myself. Ugh. What I should do is get myself new gloves. Okay. First things first, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this on here. Let's start the Fetterman, and you guys could listen to this bullshit. This guy's classic.
Connecticut for allowing to do this.
Hold on. I don't want to miss a word.
From Pennsylvania.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I would like to thank my colleague from Connecticut for allowing to do this. Yes, hi. Banks seem to really, they love fees like that, right? I didn't. I think it's helpful if something happens to you to really understand what a lot of other American consumers have faced that kinds of a thing. I'd say about 18, probably a couple years ago, I was at a coffee place and I bought one. And then everything went through. I didn't think anything of it. And then I had a notice that I overdraft my account. So that was a $40 cup of coffee. And then I wasn't at.
He's a fucking idiot. He's a dumbass. So he went in for a cup of coffee and he overdrafted for a cup of coffee. Now, here's my question. Did he do this as a senator? Or did he do this when he was just a regular schmo? Because he used to be a mayor, didn't he? I think he was a mayor somewhere. He ruined that fucking town. And now he's going around fucking buying coffee on overdraft. I don't know.
A blue bottle. But at any rate, so is it pretty it seems kind of crazy that you would allow your account to be charged for, $35 over a cup of coffee. And of course, I didn't really appreciate it. So,
all right. So what I'm doing is I'm drawing the stencil on here. So I apologize. There was no way you were going to hear the news with that this on. All right, let's get back to JoJo, the idiot circus boy.
in whose interest was that? Would you think? And anyone, what do you thought about it?
They don't know what the fuck he asked.
So it's in the interest of institutions.
They have no
that
idea
want
what
to
he asked.
Have their profits with.
Here.
Was at a coffee place.
Okay.
And I bought one. And then everything went through. I didn't think anything of it. And then I had a notice that I overdraft my account.
Okay.
So that was a $40 cup of coffee. And then I wasn't at Blue Bottle, but at any rate,
I don't know what that meant.
So, is it pretty kind of? It seems kind of crazy that you would allow your account to be charged for $35 over a cup of coffee, and of course I didn't really appreciate it. So whose interest was that? Would you think?
The banks?
And anyone, what do you thought about it?
John, so it's in the interest of institutions that want to pad their profits with huge exorbitant fees. I think we shouldn't forget that during the time when you were experiencing your not Blue Bottle coffee overdraft, that many institutions were using high to low check reordering to actually trigger additional overdrafts.
Yeah, well, and I that's what I thought, and then I called up my bank, and I'm like, well, hey, that's kind of crazy, and they're like, well, actually, sir, we allowed this transaction to occur, and you were able to get on with your day, and they actually they justified that by saying, well, that's a service that we provided that you were allowed to get your coffee and get on with your day, and then now it become very clear that these kinds of fees are a profit center. Is that accurate too?
Well, how the fuck are they going to stay in business?
Absolutely. The data from call reports reveals that the amount of fees coming in off of transaction accounts, in some cases can be 20, 30, 40%.
That's business.
To the net income of that financial institution. Those are almost overdraft stores.
And it's pure profit too. I mean, it's no service, anything other than it's just being nickel to dime. I personally don't enjoy that, being nickel and dime. Are any of you in the panel, do you enjoy being nickel and dime anywhere you go?
I enjoy it, John.
No, sir.
John, I like it.
Anyone?
I like being nickel and dime.
Now, what once was something that was a penalty now has become part of their mission. Is like to that. And then this happened just last week in my apartment. The DC rental market is kind of rough, and I pay $2,000 a month for 500 squares, and then I left my key on the counter, and then I approached the front desk, and I'm like, could you please let me in so I can get my key? And they're like, well, absolutely. And then they pulled out a form that said, well, that's $50. I'm like, oh, no, I don't need a new key. Could you just let me in? And they're like, well, that doesn't matter. That's $50. And I'm like, $50 to let me in? And then I really couldn't believe that someone would charge $50 just to open up to just get your key. And would you agree that that's kind of a junk fee for housing rentals?
Mr. Fetterman, I'm sorry,
Yes,
I don't know what the
absolutely.
fuck you're talking
That's a
about.
chunk fee. I feel bad for the person at the desk who had to follow the corporate policy that requires them to charge that fee.
Well, yeah, of
Sure,
course,
they don't feel like-
it's not personal against the worker, but the fact that they institutionalized this idea that we're gonna be $50 for letting you to just get your key there, and that's just pure profit, and that becomes that too. And metaphorically, and I know I'm running out of time, but
He's
I
running
think
out of
that's
town,
the same
man.
kind of in the government where you
Back to
cannot
Pennsylvania.
count or create like parking tickets and speeding tickets as revenue. That should be about for public service or to protect a situation.
Let's move it right
and it's
there.
in my opinion, it's just gone crazy. And now, when billions and billions of dollars now, those kinds of nickel and diming now is part of their business strategy. But thank you for joining me, and my time is off.
My time is off. His time is off, guys. Okay, that was a good one. That was a good one. Anything with Fetterman is a fucking home run. I mean, you really can't go wrong with Fetterman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Secretary Holland.
Hold on.
Do you know?
With Fetterman, it's a home run, man. Pennsylvania, you guys are geniuses. I literally think that if it were between Dr. Oz and a chimp, you would have voted a chimp in. We would have a chimp in office right now. What was Michael Jackson's chimp called? I don't fucking know. Okay. Next one I got to listen to is this Biden speaks to CNN. Classic. Again, this is on my page if you want to look down at it. Subscribe to that channel too. Subscribe to both channels if you want.
And thank you so much for being with me.
Thanks for having me.
So Trump attended a groundbreaking here where we are for Foxconn. He promised 13,000 jobs, and only about 1,000 of those actually exist right now. So I know you're promising more than 2,000 union construction jobs, and that 100,000 people are going to get trained in AI here. Why should people here believe that you will succeed at creating jobs where Trump failed?
He's never succeeded in creating jobs, and I've never failed. I've created over 15 million jobs since I've been president. 15 million in three and three quarters years. And secondly, Microsoft is a serious player, and they're very much engaged in making sure that they pick this area as sort of the home base for their AI initiative in the nation. And they're gonna do it. And just like, and by the way, well, I shouldn't go into it, but Trump is, he started off with golden shovels, you know.
What is he talking about?
And talked about this being, the eighth wonder of the world. When has he ever done anything he said? I'm not being facetious. Think about it. He started off, he lost, other than Herbert Hoover, he's the only other president who lost more jobs than created in his 4-year term. He's, in the way he managed the end of his last year when we were dealing with COVID.
He's got to be doing something right.
He'd tell people to inject bleach.
He's got to be doing something right for you to keep fucking with him politically. You're keeping him off the campaign trail by he said has to stay in court. And don't tell me your hand's not in that. Cocksucker. Sorry.
That may do it. Wasn't a real problem when he did an interview with one of your colleagues where he just flat out acknowledged he knew how dangerous it was, but he didn't want to speak to it. You know, it's and look at what he says he's going to do if he gets elected. He says he's going to do away with what I've done on Medicare, reducing the price of Medicare drastically. He said he's going to do away with the Affordable Care Act. He said he's going to do it just down the line. So we have a very different view. I look at it from a physician, not being facetious, from a Scranton perspective. He looks at it from Mar-a-Lago perspective.
Scranton.
He wants to give more significant tax.
Scranton,
cuts.
Pennsylvania, his hometown.
We've got 1,000 billionaires in America. You know what the average federal tax is? 8.3%. Talks about if I want to raise it to 25%.
What?
That would raise $40 billion, $400 billion over 10 years. And further reduce the deficit, which I've been able to reduce. I mean, it's just a completely different perspective on how we should proceed.
When it comes, though, to the 100,000 jobs specifically that we're talking about here, people training in AI, the actual jobs, when are they actually going to have jobs, those 100,000 people that are being trained?
Beginning probably in the first tranche in 3 to 4 years, the community colleges are going to, the one we're at, are going to provide for 2,000 folks and to be able to be trained, 200 a year. And it's going to go, that whole pipeline goes all the way through out to high schools and training facilities. You know, it used to be that when I was in high school,
Oh my God.
even at the tail end, very tail end.
When he was in
before
high
we went
school.
to high school, most public high schools had shop and home, learn to work with your hands. It doesn't exist anymore. And so it allows people who have
Sure it does.
skills
They make weapons.
and be able to train to technical skills.
Kids are having technical skills.
Without a college degree. And it's what we need.
So when we talk about the bet on AI and sort of what it means, I don't know if you saw this weekend, Warren Buffett had his annual meeting and he talked about AI. So the first thing he said was, okay, it's got enormous potential for good. But then he likened it to the development of nuclear weapons. in the US, and he said it scares the hell out of him. You know, he always says it like he sees it. And then he says, quote, he doesn't understand a damn thing about it. And that may capture how many Americans feel. Does AI scare you?
AI
Walking
has
upstairs scares
potential,
him.
Enormous downside potential. That's why 3 years ago I got together. with
Waking up
the
without soiled pants
architects of
scares
AI,
him.
The different operations around the world. I met with them in Europe and here in the United States. And it ranges all the way from one of the leaders saying it's going to take over human thinking, all the way to folks who say, no, it's not a problem. And so that's why I set out certain standards that it can't do no harm. And we have to make sure we know how to do that. We have to make sure it's controlled. And that's all, and it's the most significant, I think, technological development in human history.
The most significant in human history.
Yeah, and not in terms of war and peace, but in
She has
terms
no
of
idea what he's
being
saying.
able to. One leader in the AI community said to me, it's going to overtake human thinking, and which is frightening.
Terrifying.
But the other, most of it can be used everything from fine cancer to significantly increased productivity.
So when you talk about the economy, of course, it is by far the most important issue for voters. It's also true right now, Mr. President, that voters by a wide margin trust Trump more on the economy. They say that in polls. And part of the reason for that may be the numbers. And you're aware of many of these, of course. The cost of buying a home in the United States is double what it was when you look at your monthly costs from before the pandemic. Real income, when you account for inflation, is actually down since you took office. Economic growth last week, far short of expectations. Consumer confidence, maybe no surprise, is near a 2-year low. With less than 6 months to go to Election Day, are you worried that you're running out of time to turn that around?
We've already turned it around. Look at the Michigan survey. For 65% of American people think they're in good shape.
He truly
right
is
now.
clueless.
The nation's not in good shape, but they're personally in good shape. The polling data has been wrong all along. How many you guys do a poll at CNN? How many folks you have to call to get one response? The idea that we're in a situation where things are so bad, the folks that, we've created more jobs. We're in a situation where people have access to good paying jobs. And the last I saw, the combination of the inflation, the cost of inflation, all those things, that's really worrisome to people.
He sounds more and more like Fetterman.
Bring the cost of rentals down to increase the number of homes that are available. But let me say it this way. When I started this administration, people were saying there's going to be a collapse in the economy. We have the strongest economy in the world. Let me say it again.
Trump left it that way.
Although GDP last week was far short of expectations.
Oh, it wasn't. Look, GDP is still growing. Look at the response of the markets. Overwhelmingly positive. Overwhelmingly positive. And one of the reasons why people feel good about it, not being as strong as it was before, is they believe that the Fed's going to respond.
They hope they're going to get a rate cut.
Yeah. Well, no president's had the run we've had in terms of creating jobs and bringing down inflation. It was 9% when I came to office. 9%. But look, people have a right to be concerned. Ordinary people, the idea that you bounce a check and you get a $30 fee for bouncing a check, I changed that. You can't charge more than $8 for that. Or your credit card, your late payment, $35. There's corporate greed going on.
5-round liner.
And it's got to be dealt with.
The corporate greed is coming on his side.
Grocery prices are up 30%, more than 30%, since the beginning of the pandemic. And people are spending more on food and groceries than they have at any time really in the past 30 years. That's a real day-to-day pain that people
No, it really is. And it's real. But the fact is that if you take a look at what the people have, they have the money to spend. It angers them and angers me that you have to spend more. For example, the whole idea of this notion that Senator Casey talked about, shrinkflation. I think it's on your
same
program.
price for a smaller bottle of juice or
Well,
something.
for example, Snickers bar, they did a thing.
Oh,
And it's
God,
like
here he goes.
20% less for the same price. That's corporate greed.
Fucking candy bar shit.
Corporate greed. And we've got to deal with it. And that's what I'm working on.
I want to ask you about something happening as we sit here and speak, and that, of course, is Israel is striking Rafah. I know that you have paused, Mr. President, shipments of 2,000-pound U.S. bombs to Israel due to concern that they could be used in any offensive on Rafah. Have those bombs, those powerful 2,000-pound bombs, been used to kill civilians in Gaza?
Civilians have been killed in Gaza as a consequence of those bombs and other ways in which they go after population centers. I made it clear that if they go into Rafah, they haven't gone into Rafah yet. If they go into Rafah, I'm not supplying the weapons that have been used historically to deal with Rafah.
There he goes.
To deal with the cities, to deal with that.
Backpedaling.
We're going to continue to make sure Israel is secure in terms of Iron Dome and their ability to respond to attacks.
Placating.
Came out in the Middle East recently, but it's just wrong. We're not going to supply the weapons and artillery shells used that have been used.
Artillery shells as well.
Yeah, artillery shells.
So, just to understand what they're doing right now in Rafah, is that not going into Rafah as you
No,
define it yet?
they haven't gone into the population centers. What they did is right on the border, and it's causing problems with right now in terms of with Egypt, which I've worked very hard to make sure we have a relationship and help. But I've made it clear to Bibi and the war cabinet, they're not going to get our support if in fact they go in these population centers. We're not walking away from Israel's security, we're walking away from Israel's ability to wage war in those areas.
So it's not over your red line yet?
Not yet, but we've held up the weapons. We've held up the one shipment as an old shipment design. We've held that up.
He's held it up.
I want to ask you one more thing, if I may. The images that people see out of Gaza are horrific. The UN's talking about some of these mass graves and the summary executions that there's been evidence of, torture, the images of children. It breaks anyone's heart to look at it. And obviously we've seen that frustration here in the U.S. on college campuses. And Mr. President, signs at college campuses, some say Genocide Joe. And any of us that have gone to those campuses, sometimes we hear that
Fuck
chant.
those kids.
Do you hear the message of those young Americans?
Absolutely, I hear the message. Look, two things. First of all, there's a legitimate right to free speech and protest. There's a legitimate right to do that. They have a right to do that. There's not a legitimate
Lesbian.
right to use hate speech.
Wait,
Not
what?
a legitimate right to threaten Jewish students. There's not a legitimate right to block people access to class. That's against the law.
I think Joe's
It's
liquored
against
up.
the law. And so, and if you look at the data, these demonstrations are real, but they're not nearly, I mean, look, and I made a speech on the Holocaust the other day. And I pointed out that, it took 7 decades to get to the place where after the Holocaust occurred, and there's still anti-Semitism. Look what's happened in 7 weeks, 70, what's happening? Everybody's sort of forgotten about what happened in Israel. Those 1,200 young kids murdered. I saw pictures, I went over there shortly after. A mother and a daughter being roped together and then kerosene point and burned to death. Nothing's like that happened in the Jewish community since the Holocaust. So
why are you
When I
withholding
went over
fucking
to
goods
the-
to them then?
that happened. I
Dickhead.
said to Bibi, don't make the same mistake we made.
Fucking
in America.
puppet.
You want to get bin Laden, we'll help you get Sinwar. But we went into Afghanistan it made sense to go get bin Laden. It made no sense to try to unify Afghanistan. It made no sense in my view to engage in thinking that in Iraq they had a nuclear weapon. Don't make the same mistake. Focus on, and we'll help you focus on getting the bad guys. And we got to think through what is happening after Gaza, after this is over. Who's going to occupy Gaza? I've been working with the Arab states. I won't mention them because I don't want to get them in trouble. But 5 leaders in the Arab community who are prepared to help rebuild Gaza, prepared to help transition to a 2-state solution.
To government?
Or to
Oh,
maintain
what's he
security
saying?
and peace wow, they're working out a Palestinian authority that's real and not corrupt.
Mr. President, thank you very much. I appreciate your time today.
Thank you.
Beautiful, Mr. President. Fucking guy. Oh my God, this guy. He would not be backpedaling like that if there weren't any goddamn picketers, any fucking brats out there. So, I don't know. There is going to be a Biden welcomes the Las Vegas Aces to celebrate the WNBA. Yeah, it's a good sport. How come my stuff isn't working? Where is...
A Category 5 salacious storm hitting the Trump trial.
This was
Jurors
yesterday's.
Finally getting to hear from adult film actress Stormy Daniels after she gave testimony so raunchy it would make a porn star blush and the media laugh.
My basic feeling is like, wow, this is a colorful, maybe hyper colorful witness.
Daniels says she told Trump of the magazine, someone should spank you with that. I'm sorry, Anthony.
What are they? They're like fucking little kids.
Satin pajamas.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I apologize. No, I'm sorry. I just had to laugh.
This is
I can't believe I have to read this on television. It's not going to involve any descriptions.
Better you than me, Jake
It's not going to involve any descriptions of anything in particular. So
Just read it.
Read it on the screen. Stormy Daniels is at
So
the heart
stupid.
of Alvin Bragg's falsified business records
Such
case
bullshit.
against Donald Trump, and today she described in great detail the alleged sexual encounter in 2006 that the former president denies ever took place. Her account was so tawdry that Trump's lawyers called for a mistrial, arguing it was designed to inflame the jury and embarrass the former president. But the judge slapped down the motion. Here is the former president.
A very big day, a very revealing day. As you see, their case is totally falling apart. They have nothing on books and records, and even something that should bear very little relationship to the case. It's just a disaster for the DA, for the Soros-backed DA. It's a disaster.
Donald Trump would certainly like to respond to Stormy's racy testimony, but he can't. That's because of the gag order that the judge says could result in jail time the next time he breaks it. Speaking of which, some in the liberal press can't help but envision what prison would look for.
Fucking
the
Whoopi
former
Goldberg.
president.
This is not a mugshot. This is jail. And Donald Trump is terrified. You've got to believe just by his issues with odors and smells.
The idea that Donald Trump actually would want to go to jail is
He could
ridiculous.
smell fucking
He doesn't want to
bullshit
stand and
case.
tell.
I think to make a point, to prove a point, put him in the clink. Oh, why not? Put him in the clink.
I don't want this to sound like I'm doing wishful thinking.
Yes.
But which prison would be best?
That's right.
I would give you, Michael. Well, that's what I asked. Number one.
How about your house? That would be a prison.
Alcatraz and they reopen it. What about Guantanamo Bay?
Okay, Jonathan Turley, thank you for being here again. Take us through this whole situation today.
Well, it was a bizarre situation because you had the defense tell the judge, this is going to happen if you put her on the stand with these broad parameters. It happened.
With these
And then the judge
broads.
said, well, I may ask the jury to forget that it happened. And how are they going to forget that? It's not like you're asking them to forget some CPA's testimony about a notation in a ledger, right? And the troubling thing about this is that they lit a dumpster fire in this courtroom. And the
the defense asked for the mistrial, and the judge blamed the defense attorney. And so I can only imagine standing there, and it must have been difficult not to say, I'm sorry, Judge, I'm the attorney that told you not to put her on the stand. I told you that you had too broad of parameters. And then when she did exactly as we suggested you did, you ignore that I have a standing objection to her saying anything in this trial. And so at the end of the day, Merchant got what all of us expected.
Nothing.
Now, this idea that he can make this cat walk backwards is going to be rather difficult. You know, you've already, had this eyewitness go into every detail. Including whether the president wears boxer shorts, that he had Old Spice in his bathroom. I mean, that's the level of absurd.
That is so stupid.
I mean, we've all seen Greg's office with the gallon of Old Spice, but we don't mention it. But this is a show. But the fact that you would bring in that type of just completely immaterial detail shows how this judge was a mere pedestrian in his courtroom. And then at the end of all of that, to say, God, he literally said, it would have been better if that testimony didn't occur. And you're just sort of looking around like, you were the one that allowed this testimony to occur.
And I can't imagine being someone on the jury. I did read at one point, one of the reporters said, or I think it was one of our producers said that one of the jurors, a woman, had her head in her hands, but I cannot believe that we're having to listen to this.
Interesting. I'm glad to hear that. I wish I were in the courtroom. In fact, I'll be in the courtroom on Thursday and Friday. But look, the testimony that we heard today has absolutely nothing to do with the indictment.
Nothing.
The testimony was irrelevant.
It was to embarrass.
Prejudicial. It was not probative. It has nothing to do with how something was filed.
It was
and
used
how
to
reimbursements
embarrass
are going,
and tie him up in
whether
court.
it was correctly entered in the books. Period. End of the story.
Yes, ma'am.
This judge saying to the defense attorney, well, you didn't object enough. Look, any judge worth his or her salt, if you see something happening that is going to jeopardize the conviction, you yourself, sua sponte, on your own, will say, I'm going to stop the line of questioning right here. And then what you do is you call the parties to the bench and you say to the defense, to the prosecution, you are moving too close to reversible error here. Let's trim the offenses here a little bit. But Merchant, and I heard one person say on Fox, oh, he's a really experienced judge. He's a fool. He's not an experienced judge the way he's doing this. For him to say, please keep your answers short and listen to the questions while she is laying out what could be another prosecutable offense against Donald Trump that I'm not even going to mention, he is allowing reversible error.
Anal.
He should
Sodomy,
have said,
I
I'm going
think.
to strike that testimony. There should have been a curative instruction right then and there on the spot. But instead he says, well, I'll think about it, make a request at the time of charge, at the time of my charge. No. And then he sends the jury out and lays out the prosecutor for allowing this testimony in. This judge is either all in on convicting Trump, irrespective of whether it's going to be reversed.
Of course he is.
And I would bet my house this will be reversed by the Court of Appeals.
One of the things, though, that Greg, is that even if it is reversed, it wouldn't be until after the election. And what they are hoping for is a conviction so that Joe Biden can say in all of the ads and at the debate, oh, well, you're talking about a convicted felon.
What are the odds that an incident from 15 to 20 years ago would now become the object of litigation just months before an election? It's kind of a strange coincidence that the media doesn't really seem to focus on. That might be one question that would make you go, maybe this is political. I gotta say, I love how CNN anchors blush and are shocked by pajamas and spanking. I mean, one of your employees pleasured himself on Zoom.
Ooh.
You kept him on there. One of your producers, I think, was arrested for grooming kids.
Yes.
It's funny watching the media act like Puritans, right? Go to any media event, and it's like the Playboy Mansion with ugly people. So it's just, they got the paws all over you, they're drunk. This is porn for sexless Democrats. Listening to testimony from an aging sex worker about Trump in a courtroom, you have everything. It's almost as erotic as listening to NPR while feeding grapes to your cat with myocarditis.
What the
court
fuck?
case is really
I don't like
about
his tangents.
convincing jurors that Trump is a bad guy for sleeping around. It's not about breaking laws, because no laws were broken. If Trump were a woman, the prosecution would be accused of slut shaming. Huh? That's quite a theory. Again, he's not charged for the hush money. It's not about Stormy. It's about an accounting method for a legal payment in a business record that had no known category. That's it. What Stormy has to do with it is nothing. All that is
inconsequential.
Is frosting for the media.
Jesse Waters, give your last word.
Fact check, Trump does not use Old Spice. He has his own deodorant line. It's called Success. Someone gifted it to me in a book signing. And Turley, cats can walk backwards. I don't know about that analogy. Michael Avenatti dropped a bombshell from behind bars today, and take it for what it's worth. I'm just conveying what he said. He made an allegation that a producer wanted to do a documentary on Stormy Daniels and called him on a recorded line and said, would you like to participate? And he said, well, I don't know. Is she getting paid for the documentary? Because if she is, it's probably not fair and I'm not going to do it. And the producer says, yeah, she is going to get paid for the documentary, but that's because she owes Trump hundreds of thousands of dollars in judgment, and she's just trying to make ends meet. But she has a way of concealing the money from Trump's lawyers. What they're going to do is, and what they have done, Michael says, is that they have optioned the rights to her book. They've taken the proceeds and set up a fraudulent LLC under Stormy's daughter's name, and that's how they're going to hide the money from Trump's lawyers.
Amazing.
If this is true, then she's guilty of bad record keeping and fraud. So I don't know if that's going to be pursued by Alvin Bragg. Probably not. But Trump is barreling towards breaking this gag order. I don't see within the next 48 hours how he does not do it. You're saying you can't criticize the government? That's what the judge is saying. You cannot criticize the government, the court, or the prosecution, let alone an American citizen. This guy's the Republican nominee for president. Not only he can't criticize the government, he's not inciting violence. He's not making false statements. He has an opinion about the government that's being controlled by his political rival that's prosecuting him. Now, if you can't criticize the government or have an opinion about the government, then you're not in America. And that's insane. And we also just found out this guy Colangelo, the lead prosecutor, who is Biden's number 3 guy at the Department of Justice, was a paid consultant for the Democrat National Committee. And he's an Obama donor. So Obama donating DNC consultant, former Biden
God bless
prosecutor,
America,
is leading the charge in this courtroom. And the Democrats say this isn't political. And maybe you guys can answer this question for me. How are they only giving Trump's lawyers 24 hours to prepare for these witnesses?
It's unheard of. It is unheard of.
I need at least 5 hours to prepare for this show.
You can't even do it.
It's unfair. I don't see how they can get away with sandbagging them like that.
Well, we could go on and on. The court will not be in session tomorrow. Thursday, Friday. Yeah, I know you're bummed about that.
Click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You won't get it anywhere else.
What? What was that? What was that about? No.
Right now, redirect is a...
Shut up. I don't know with YouTube if I'm allowed to be doing this. I feel like I'm breaking the law. But I don't know. I guess we'll find out together. This is a whole test. I just want to see if they will screw with me. And of course, today would be the day that they...
Whistleblower policy.
The county does also have a whistleblower policy.
Is that a written policy?
I have not looked at it in
what you all have accomplished.
Oh, this is live.
And earlier this year, we just talked about it, I was honored to host the first official gathering of women's sports leaders, from athletes to coaches to executives, at my residence to recognize the incredible power and importance of teams like yours. You simply inspire...
You're simply the best.
And around the world. Through your excellence, You show young
Better
leaders and
than
young
all
women
the rest.
they can be and do anything. And for that, I thank you all for who you are, and heartfelt congratulations again on your win. And now it is my honor to introduce another leader who knows a thing or two about winning, our President, Joe Biden.
Here goes the bullshit. Here goes the bullshit. Let's listen to the bullshit, how he used to be a star basketball player. He was going to be drafted by the Clippers.
She was saying you're one of the best, including Mennonites.
What? Including Mennonites?
Folks, welcome to the White House. 2023 WNBA champions, Las Vegas Aces. Kamala
And who are you?
very own MVP, Doug. Second gentleman. And thanks to the members of Congress that are here. Special thanks to the members of the administration, including Acting Labor Secretary Julie Su, and above all,
Boo boop, he didn't.
by the way, she was a senator. No. Thank you all and the entire Aces organization, especially coaches and players. The first WNBA team in over 20 years to win the title back-to-back. I kind of like that back-to-back stuff.
Have him play against some boys.
Ever since we moved to Las Vegas in 2018,
Back-to-back will go out.
excellence. 5 straight playoff appearances, 3 final appearances in 4 years. And this year, the best regular season record in league history, including the most wins in the season. 8-1 in the postseason before winning the title again. And along the way, you led by giants of the game. Hall of Fame coach Becky Hammond. Becky, where?
I'd like to go to the White House and take a shit.
The deepest bench in the league. Starters led by 4 All-Stars. Chelsea Gray. Jackie Young. Kelsey Plum. And a woman new to the limelight. Asia Wilson, the pride of Columbia, South Carolina.
South Carolina.
Jim Clyburn here to keep bragging about you. Wow. While she couldn't be here, I want to acknowledge someone who will be considered one of the greatest all-time coaches, Candace Parker. She played 16 seasons in the league, 2 Olympic gold medals, 2 regular season MVPs, and a final MVP. And look, I'm going out on top of the world with her 3rd ring. She announced her retirement from the game, but I want to thank her for an incredible career. We know she's got a whole world in front of her, a whole world.
A whole new world.
It's been a banner year for women's basketball. More watching y'all than anybody else.
The fuck is
Watch women's college game ever. It matters to girls and women finally seeing themselves represented. And it matters to all of America. That's why as a nation we need to support women's sport. By showing up in person, watching on TV with more sponsorships and programming, and helping grow the business of women's sports and keep inspiring.
Keep inspiring, keep inspiring, keep inspiring.
Think of what these years have been. Let me close with this. This year we hosted Black History Month celebration in this very room. I was introduced by a student named Nigel, who just graduated from UNLV.
Oh boy.
He spoke about how he's the son of a Las Vegas firefighter who stood on the shoulders of generations of black firefighters that came before him. He spoke about how they became a foster family and how he started a nonprofit to provide clothes for foster children who had very little on their own. And trying to reach more
Kamala's
foster kids, he reached
pontificating.
out to his entire community to help. And no surprise, the Las Vegas agent stepped up and answered the call. God love him. And he said, where are you? Where is he?
Nope, he died. Okay, that's it. Again, I'm gonna try to do this. Let me shut him the fuck up because he ain't saying nothing I want to hear anyway. But I'm gonna try to do this more often. I want to try to build up my subscribers. I'm gonna switch it over to the tattoo channel. Once I get the 50 subscribers, then I won't do this over here on this political channel because I won't. So, all right, thanks for